About 20 k's out, we were about 15 seconds behind RP, and the turbo pipe came off. We had to stop and fix that. That took about 3 or 4 minutes. We got going again, but we'd been having clutch problems from the beginning. It wouldn't select cleanly, and now it won't select at all. So that's it.
With Wickers van Deventer already forced to call it a day, Mark Breckel was running at the head of the quad field, with matters hotting up in the production vehicle category. RP Reyneke and Robin Houghton were still out in front in the Toyota Land Cruiser, but on corrected time, the Pennzoil Land Rover, driven by Cliffy Barker and Malcolm Joubert, was only seconds behind the reigning champions and still closing. After their disappointing time trial, Barker and Joubert were on a mission. The fuel and service stop at the halfway mark offered weary competitors a short respite from the rigours of championship off-road racing. Refueling and hasty repairs, if needed, often turn refuel points into near-panic areas. But at this year's Jojo Tank's Baberspan 500, most of the competitors were more interested in wiping off some of the accumulated mud and dirt. Drivers and navigators always have a tale or two to tell about experiences out on the route, with John Lambert in the Digidor 2, one of those whose day had not gone exactly according to his schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I'm battling with the kingpin bushes seem to be very tight, and I can't control it in the tight stuff. But we got going again. Unfortunately, on the way, right in the early stages, I hit Rob Walk, and I had to stop and repair the car.
Theo Kutsia and Ian Wedderburn were trying to cure an overheating problem that was slowing the Chev S10, but all was cool and calm and collected in the Variawa camp. When they arrived at the service point, Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne were worried about the steering box. But with the sun starting to shine, Schilling was beginning to perk up.
It looks pretty good.
Terrible. Getting nice now, the sun's coming out. But it was very, very muddy this morning. The car's was going beautifully, and we'll see at the finish. Watch.
With the majority of the car field already having made it to the refuel point, everyone was waiting for the arrival of the first quad. As expected, there had been a high rate of attrition among the quad brigade, with pre-race favourite Wickers van Deventer among those who had gone missing. It was a mud-spattered Mark Breckel on the FMF Brasco Yamaha who was first to put in an appearance at the service point.
This morning was a bit muddy, but it's getting nice now. Nice and sandy as well. Enjoyable on the benches.
Characters abound in motorsport, and there was a light-hearted spirit among the crowds who gathered at vantage points along the route. It was all harmless fun, but the serious side of off-road racing was manifesting itself in a rapidly developing battle in the production vehicle category between reigning champions RP Reyneke and Robin Houghton and Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert. The Toyota pair were now only seconds ahead of the Pennzoil Land Rover on the road, and on corrected time, their lead was even more tenuous. The V8-powered Land Rover was sounding glorious, and with a win long overdue, Barker had the bit between his teeth. The Llewellyn Anthony Chris Birkin turbo diesel Toyota Hilux had not missed a beat and was an impressive third in the category. The big surprise was the performance of Shamir Variawa and Liko Khan, who had unobtrusively taken the AV Racing Shenoweth into the lead in the special vehicle class. There were no surprises in the bike category, with old faithful Alfie Cox out in the front on the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM. Errol Dalton, who broke his leg in a jet ski accident at the Baberspan last year, was second to Cox on the Shell Honda, with Alex Vowles third on the Antelix Dairy KTM and leading the 250 class. Vowles was starting to come under pressure from the Shell Honda pair of Alan Julian and Graham McLaughlin, who had Gary Peterson closing in on him on the Brasco Kawasaki. Local rider Dion Botha was having a good day on a privately entered KTM, but was soon to drop back into the pack. Rian van Niekerk on the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM was at the front of the 200 class, but closing in on him were Clayton Ensslin on the Elmer Fox Kawasaki and Henny Human on the PD Motorcycles Kawa. At this stage of proceedings, only 4 quad races were still left running, with the race turning into a straight fight between Johan Kruger and Mark Breckel, with both of them mounted on Yamaha Banshees. With RP Reyneke and Robin Houghton in sight of the finish in the Toyota Land Cruiser, the drama in the Jojo Tank's Baberspan 500 was far from over. The Land Cruiser expired in deep water, with Reyneke and Houghton losing more time to Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert. Not that Barker and Joubert escaped scot-free. The Pennzoil Land Rover expired in exactly the same spot as the Toyota, but on corrected time, Barker and Joubert had the production vehicle category win in the bag. There were also late problems for Theo Coetzee and Ian Wedderburn with the Chev S10 now sans bonnet. The Free Staters had Class F in the bag and were third in the production vehicle category when they got bogged down. Coetzee and Wedderburn could see the finish on the other side of the pan, but while they floundered in the mud, along came Llewellyn Anthony and Chris Birkin in the diesel turbo Toyota Hilux to nip into third place overall, while Coetzee and Wedderburn were being towed out of the mire. A long overdue win for Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert, with R.P. Reinecker and Robin Houghton pushed into second place. A terrific performance from Anthony and Birkin, along with the Coetzee Wedderburn and Grobler-Wormerans combinations.
Yes, look, yesterday we didn't have full drive on the time trial, so we were 3 minutes behind the leading track. And today we had to chase from behind. Eventually we were leading, then we got lost, and then we got stuck in the water and got a flat wheel. And eventually I think the chase around the pan was sort of what did it.
A fairy tale national championship debut saw the impressive Shamir Variawa and Likho Khan bring the AV Racing Shenoweth home to a completely unexpected win in the special vehicle category. Second on the road were John Lambert and Hendrik Fourie in the Digidor Raceco, but on corrected time they dropped a couple of places. A little apprehensive of another bout of water in the electrics, which hampered them soon after the start, saw Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne adopt a very cautious approach to the final water hazard in the Motortag Jimco. They moved ahead of Lambert and Fourie, along with Wade and Grant Perrins, who slipped into third place overall after a steady drive in the Jack's Paint Sandmaster. A great drive from one-armed Roy Slubber took him and Willie Morton into fifth place in the special vehicle category, although they almost threw it away right at the end. Slubber and Morton just managed to extricate themselves from trouble, but Derek Pinoy and Craig Jackson in the Quickford Raceco were not quite so lucky. A popular result in the special vehicle category with Shamir Variawa and Likho Khan winning in the AV Racing Shenoweth. Their marvellous performance brought them in ahead of vastly experienced crews like the Schilling, Thorne and Perrins combinations.
Yeah, with us being a space frame in a rear-wheel drive car, obviously the bakkies have more advantage over us, so it's a bit tight for us to try and manage over the muddy conditions.
After running into an early problem when fence wire got caught up in the spokes of the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM, the peerless Alfie Cox cruised to his second Baberspan win. Like good wine, Cox just seems to get better and better with age. After his jet ski mishap last year, there were happier memories this time for Errol Dalton on the Shell Honda. Alex Vowles got everything right to dominate the 250 category on the Antilex Dairy KTM, while a late charge took Clayton Ensland to victory in the 200 class on the Elna Fox Kawasaki. As expected in the wet, the bigger capacity machines dominated, with Cox adding the 500 class win to his overall victory. Vowles wrapped up the 250 class ahead of Alan Julian on the Shell Honda, with Clayton Ensland the top man in the 200 category.
This year, the 500's caught up to me within 2 minutes at the service point. Just leaving the service point, a car obviously brought some barbed wire into the road and jammed my rear wheel up, and I spent 5 minutes trying to take the wire out of the wheel, and that Grant Bloomfield and Errol Dalton came past me. So then again I had to work again from behind, and I got them before the second last refuel, and coming home the last 160 kilometers I got a nice pace, felt very good, and just came 11 minutes in the lead, and I'm happy. It's been good. Baberspan has never been my best event, and the last 2 years has been great for me.
The mud bath just before the finish almost claimed quad leader Johan Kruger. It was spectacular stuff, as Vickers van Deventer, who had earlier retired from the event, sportingly rescued Venter from a last-minute catastrophe.
Ja, dit is baie goed. Ek is baie bly vir Johan Kreer se part. Hy verdien dit. Hy ry soveel jare nog nooit, en vandag het hy hom. Johan, baie geluk, jy het hom.
There were just 4 finishers in a quad category. It was a brave performance from Jan Kruger, with second-placed Mark Breckel followed on by Louis Boshoff and Adrian High.
There's a lot of mud all over the place. Just coming back on the second loop, the pan there, about mud about 1 kilometre, 1.5 kilometres long. Cars are stuck there, you couldn't get past them.